Well met, lords and ladies, Jacob Butter speaking, and a windy welcome to this week's Walking Wednesday. Shackleton Road. That's where I am currently. Which way shall the road take me? Or rather, the path next to it. That is what I intend to find out. I had two bits prepared for the start of this Walking Wednesday, I must say. One of them was the fact that while we were driving over here to Crawley, it seemed like the GPS wanted to take us down this particular road for some reason. And of course the goal was to see, was that it was a faster route, but there's one that we take like all the time. That it's not like it's a huge time saver. So not it. So I guess I thought, okay, I'm gonna come back around here, just on the walk, and then I'm going to keep going and see where the road takes me. As they say, the road goes ever on, and I must follow it where I can. And yes, I've had a few Tolkien discussions recently, partly because we finally actually finished Rings of Power. We were behind by a few weeks because of different things, like either streams or other stuff, like I think it was like the jazz concert I mentioned last episode and everything. So, that somewhat got delayed, but it's been a pretty good family tradition thus far. And it just so happens that my brother returns, and he was part of the initial run. He just so happened to return yesterday, when we've actually finally all caught up. So, there you go. It's just how it worked out, I guess. So yeah, that was one thing that I was going to mention. The other one was that the bit that I prepared was the fact that it was going to be obvious that I was wearing the same clothes as during yesterday's stream, because obviously, because of the wind and such, it was a bit cold, so I thought, okay, I'm just gonna do it this way. So that happened too. So the reason I was going to show that I was wearing the same clothes was because of the sporadic nature from which we ended up coming here today. So last week I took a week off of coming over here to look after my nan and such. Partly because of actually all the reasons I mentioned in the last episode are why I took a week off to process things, or try to do so. Taking advantage of being home alone and stuff, which then ended up not being a thing that lasted for that long or whatever. So yeah. Although I guess it was sort of implied that because my dad's away again, that I would be trying to do the same thing for a second week. It's like, first of all, it's not the same because Carl will be there anyway, and he actually wanted to come over tomorrow to see everyone. So that was already null and void. And secondly, it was a combination of things, not just the Home Alone factor that that led me to stay behind before. That's not like a regular thing. I'm pretty sure with one exception before then, I've come to, like, every week that I've been here since 2020 that we've actually gone round to visit, I have done so. At least I believe I have anyway. So that to me was the more regular thing. So when my mum comes in and starts talking about like dishwasher arrangements and stuff, and I was like, wait a minute, am I not going this week? So turns out she was leaving in 10 minutes. So once I actually got around to being able to look up when my flu shot appointment actually was, which is a thing that she asked me like 2 seconds after leaving the room, which meant that I was then delayed again looking that up. So once that was all sorted, I had very little time to actually do, pretty much anything. So that was a rush. So I did not get changed from yesterday, and that was why. That was going to be my justification, because I wanted to tell that story, but also, in case any of the continuity experts out there are thinking that I recorded this on a Tuesday or something. No. People often ask me that sometimes, they say, oh, have you like, did you not record it, the Walking Wednesday in advance? It's like, no, because that sort of ruins the gimmick. Walking Wednesday was created around the time when I was super busy with university and such, but I wanted to honour my promise to my mum, actually, fittingly enough, to actually, get out the house and walk more. I also wanted to update everyone because they kept on asking me the same questions over and over again as to what was going on, and so eventually that all like merged in my mind to an idea where I can actually update people while walking and deal with all of those things at once. And so that's what I've been doing ever since for like 180 weeks or something like that now. Am I on 180 already? I'm not sure. But yeah, the point is but part of it was the fact that it was supposed to be unedited, and I can see now why I was taken down this route. I don't know if it's quicker, but it's a way. So yeah. Turns out, all roads do lead to Rome. Okay. Anyway, so the point is that it's edited. That's why the only times I've ever edited videos of Walking Wednesdays if I have to take out a section, or I run out of space, and it's because it's two separate files, and so I have to manually go back in and edit those ones. And it's usually 480p and stuff like that. So that's really it. And the point was, of course, again, to give people something, which eventually had a knock-on effect because then it encouraged me to at least post one video in between Walking Wednesday, so I don't have an entire month where that's all I'm able to do because I'm so busy. So it actually increased my productivity with YouTube just in other areas besides it. But it has existed ever since, recorded on Wednesday in its unedited form for 180 weeks. So, that's the thing. But yeah, that's, and obviously since then, My Street 5 years later came about, again, almost 2 years ago to the day. I think tomorrow is the second anniversary of 5 years later, which also means it's the 7th anniversary of My Street as a whole. So yeah, 7 being the magic number and all. So yeah, basically that. Yeah, what was I gonna say? Yeah. So yeah, 5 years later, that was actually created again, and that actually diversified the content. So I guess slowly over time, because of those two things in combination with each other, and nowadays with Gacha Review turning itself into a live segment to avoid having to thoroughly edit, hours worth of content every single time, back when I actually had more stuff going for me. Yeah, with those things, now now most of my content ends up being unedited and unfiltered. So yeah, it's had a weird effect. There was a time when Vega stopped working really properly on my new computer, and I just didn't use it for several weeks, and and my content didn't suffer at all for it. So yeah, that was bizarre to think about how that went down. But yeah, that's not to say I don't like doing edited content. It's just, as it turned out, that's how I ended up. And yeah, I guess in terms of how it's going so far, it's been way better. It's almost like Aiden has been complaining a few times about, how his shorts are doing so well, but his long form content that takes way longer to make isn't. That's partly to do with people's attention spans or however it goes and such. But yeah, the other thing really, I mean, he's sort of right. I mean, I can edit a short together in like a few minutes, basically. So it's an interesting state of affairs, honestly. But yeah, in his case, that's the thing. But in my case, I guess, you know, I generate maybe more watch hours and view traffic from stuff I'm doing now. I mean, once I identified the pattern of gacha review streams, it was around the time that the list started getting bigger as well, so I had more ideas for it. I then also, you know, I still have 2 months worth of VODs to actually catch up on, so that's another thing. I mean, I'm always somewhat 2 months behind. I've never actually caught up properly as far as 5 years later goes. At least not yet, anyway. As things will go later, I'm sure that will eventually manifest in some form. So yeah, maybe probably, hopefully before season 6 happens. But yeah, with Halloween and stuff, I had like other ideas I wanted to try out. Basically more live content, because it was always a bit of a weird disparity. Like back in the day, I found that when I was doing AFMAL theories and stuff, that was arguably that was definitely my peak time before really the last couple of months, where I was of viewership. So yeah, 2017, 2018 especially, because 2017 I only did like one theory that kind of carried the wave, and then I started doing more and more. But yeah, the thing with that is that that it got plenty of views, but no one subscribed. Whereas at the end of 2018, when I started making gacha videos, and then of course when the Mutant Girl debuted in 2019, that was the same thing again. It was the opposite. I actually had, it wasn't as widely viewed. None of the episodes was widely viewed as the theories, but they were generating way more subscribers. So it's interesting. The AFMAL fan base watches but doesn't subscribe, and the gacha fan base that most subscribes and also watches, but there are less of them. And yeah, 5 years later, ironically, I think I've struck the balance. Or 3 years later, because gacha really 2019 and such. Yeah, it's interesting because again, the pattern that I found was that whenever there was a 5 years later VOD that came out, and then it was immediately followed by a gacha review stream, both of those would complement each other in terms of views. So I just kept on adding on to that, and occasionally I have a plugin that tells me like the views per hour that any video is getting, and the stuff that got any sort of views per hour, any momentum at any point, started increasing. So it wasn't like on YouTube, usually after 48 hours your video is like out of the loop of recommendations. Or at least it's not out, it's just lesser. So yeah, unless it picks up traction later, and then there's a whole system, the algorithm and stuff. But yeah, I saw more and more that it seemed like some of them maintained like the views per hour momentum like for several days, and sometimes even when I like had gaps in between, the gaps sort of became more. I mean, it's not the first time I've gained subscribers without posting anything within a certain time period. But it's the first time I've like seen the views dramatically increase, like, by the hundreds and stuff. And occasionally by the thousands. That's when I really started to like focus on like, why is this stream why does the stream have 2,000 views? Why is it, that? Right now, my 10th and 11th most popular videos I've ever made across the 9 years that I've been doing this channel are a couple of those 5 years later streams that were followed up by a gacha review. The first one was the one that gave me the idea. The second one was you know, the experimentation of it. I'm still going to figure out if that's like better to do like on Saturdays or Sundays, or like, you know, what's, you know, like that time frame and such, or if, you know, having a gap as such is preferable or not. But yeah, even now, because of that momentum, I'm being recommended a lot more. I mean, there have been new people who have joined the streams who have actually watched during the time that recommended, and then like the replay, I look at my new viewers and stuff. And granted, there aren't many returning viewers overall. That's something that I do have to consider. That, look at my analytics, that a lot of people who watch the actual VODs and stuff, they don't return afterwards. But the recommendation system is still pushing them to people. So I guess what I need to do now is figure out, you know, I guess it's kind of a thing with that kind of content that when you watch it once, there's not really too much to return to. It's not like scripted reviews where, say, you actually have basically where I guess, you know, you have like a bunch of inserted jokes or edits or something that, you know, keep people's attention, you know, for several times over. Because I've watched the same videos of reviews over and over before. Without a doubt, without question. So that's another thing. So yeah, I've been analyzing that a lot more, and I've been realizing more and more why stuff performs a certain way, and I've been actually getting the numbers represent that. And finally, coming to a compromise again between the people that watch and don't subscribe and the ones who do subscribe but don't watch as much. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, like the thing I really need now is the watchers, because I've achieved 1,000 subscribers, and my next thing to actually, you know, if I was to get monetized on YouTube and join the partner program, is to get 4,000 hours of watch time, which I've got 2.7 thousand at the moment. So yeah, I'm more than halfway there, and I have been keeping track, and I have been increasing bit by bit as I've refined the technique, and every month the watch hours have been going up ever since I discovered that strategy. Although I discovered something else that really, you know, I mean, still some of the videos the best perform are like the music ones. Whenever on the YouTube dashboard you're able to see what videos have performed the best in a certain time period. The Zayn song has been constantly there, either like number 1 position or 2, 3, depends. But it's always there somehow. And that one, of course, you know, being music, that one has a lot more of a return value, especially because you can't listen to that particular song version anywhere else. It's not like I have it on Spotify or anything, partly because it's a parody, so I couldn't really do that anyway if I wanted to. But yeah. So I guess in that regard, I looked as well. My peak watch time across the year actually has been January and April. And that was weird to me, because January and April I stopped posting as much, because that was when I was really knuckling down about the musical. Then I realized most of the stuff that I actually had, I had uploaded, it was unlisted content that was being repeated by me mostly, because that was like the music tracks to actually play, and people would listen back and forth if they were in the cast to actually you know, rehearse the songs on their own and stuff. So yeah, of course they'd be like listened to over and over and over again. But then, so I guess honestly, music seems to be the way to really refine that somehow. I'm not saying I'm going to drop a song super quickly all the time, because when I used to do that, you know, around 2016 or so, the songs were pretty bad. I mean, they were rushed to actually make it so that there would be a viable revision tactic, because my mum again said to me that when I was revising for GCSEs and stuff, that it wasn't as good a technique, because I was spending a lot of time going over that content. But of course, nowadays I'd say I spend a lot of time, you know, editing, re-recording, writing and processing that particular information and how I'm actually going to put that into a song. So I was actively thinking about it. And, well, again, the numbers agree with me. Not the YouTube numbers this time, granted, but the actual results, the marks that I got, the grades, which are now numbers, but they were letters at the time. So yeah, that's they did work out in the end, but that was the reason they were not as polished as they could have been. Sometimes they would actually be for presentations, in which case I only have a week's deadline for them anyway, and I have to do other homework and stuff in between, and blah 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 blah. You know, it was a whole thing. So yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna drop a song, you know, constantly, but maybe like more of them here and there, especially Athmal themed ones, because I promised a few. And who knows, maybe that will be it. The things people watch over and over again, and it will get me those returning viewers that I am definitely missing right now. So once again, I have a plan, and I am doing far better, both emotionally and performance-wise. So yeah, absolutely. And of course, the song I did produce recently was the anniversary one, which again, you know, very fun to write and perform for. Probably going to do something more relevant to the rest of the audience, not just for one person next time, but yeah, definitely a nice occasion to actually see, yeah, they're still appreciated, and yeah. But they love the song, by the way, just saying. So yeah, I'm running out of time right now. I don't want to be editing this video, like I said before, so I'm going to stop now. So please leave a like or dislike, because your opinion matters, as I know already. And on that note, until next time, farewell.